Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, things are getting a little mysterious, a little secretive.
Oh.
Yeah, we're going to be taking a look at Masonic rituals and symbolism.
Oh, wow.
We've got this document we're going to be looking at. It's just called 494-10425 ASR 1946 ritualbook.pdf. Oh, quite a mouthful.
Right.
But, yeah, we're going to try and understand the ultimate goal of this whole Masonic journey as it's revealed in all these rituals.
Well, it's fascinating stuff. These rituals aren't just about, like esoteric practices and all that.
Right.
There's a whole system of moral and philosophical development in there. It spans centuries.
Okay.
It's like a secret code waiting to be deciphered, but one that's really focused on ethical conduct, personal growth, serving humanity, all that good stuff.
Well, let's start decoding.
Yeah.
Right away, this document throws us into these vivid descriptions of chambers and costumes and rituals.
Oh, yeah.
It's like reading an adventure story almost.
I can see that.
Like, for instance, the entrance to the Sanctum Sanctorum. They talk about brazen columns, a two-leaved door, 4 smaller columns draped in white, blue, purple, and crimson.
Wow.
Why all the specific details? What's the significance?
It's all deliberate. You see, it's not just about making things look pretty. It's
Oh, it's
about creating an immersive experience, engaging all your senses to prepare you for these deeper layers of meaning within the rituals.
Oh, I see.
Like, for example, the colors in the Sanctum Sanctorum. They aren't just random choices.
Right.
They often represent specific virtues or principles. White, for example, can symbolize purity. Blue, you've got wisdom. Purple can be royalty or spirituality. And crimson, that often stands for zeal or sacrifice.
Makes sense.
So by surrounding the initiate with all these colors, the rituals are subtly reinforcing these values right from the start.
So it's not just what's being said, it's the environment.
Exactly.
The whole sensory experience.
Yeah, it's like setting the stage for a transformative journey.
They really are.
And as you move through the Masonic degrees, you're not just gaining knowledge. You're actually embodying these values, making them a part of who you are.
Speaking of the degrees, the document outlines a pretty structured hierarchy.
Yeah.
Each degree sort of unveils a new layer of understanding. We see titles like Secret Master, Ineffable Mason, Provost, and Judge. It's almost like leveling up in a video game.
Aha, yeah.
But what's the deeper meaning? Why this structured system?
It's more like an educational system, really.
Okay.
Each degree is a stage of learning, building on what came before.
I see.
It's all about gradual revelation, making sure the initiate is prepared for the knowledge and the responsibility that comes with each level.
So it's more than just learning stuff, it's internalizing it,
Exactly.
putting it into practice.
Now that ties into something else we see.
Yeah.
This whole pursuit of the ineffable name, the true name of God.
Yes.
It's mentioned early on in the 4th degree,
Uh-huh.
but we don't get the actual pronunciation until way later.
Right.
Why the buildup?
Well, it underlines the idea that true knowledge, you don't just get it handed to you.
It's earned through dedication, through study, through self-improvement.
Okay.
The ineffable name represents the ultimate truth, the pinnacle of Masonic understanding.
I can see that.
The rituals emphasize that this knowledge is earned through a gradual process of purification and enlightenment.
It's all about the journey, this gradual climb towards knowledge and self-perfection.
Exactly. It's not about instant gratification.
Yeah.
It's a process of transformation.
Now, this whole idea of a journey is really captured in the story of Hiram Abiff,
Oh, yes.
a central narrative in Masonic lore.
Very important.
I've heard bits and pieces about it, but I'm not totally familiar with the story.
Well,
What makes it so central to Masonic teachings?
Hiram Abiff was the master builder of Solomon's temple, and his death, his tragic death at the hands of these 3 assassins, is a very powerful allegory in Masonic teachings.
An allegory. In what sense?
Well, his death represents the challenges and obstacles we face on our own journeys, our own paths to truth and enlightenment. And the 3 assassins, they symbolize ignorance, fanaticism, and vice, all those forces trying to hold us back, prevent us from reaching our full potential.
So it's not just a historical story.
Right.
It's a symbolic representation of these internal struggles we all go through.
Exactly. And the search for Hiram Abiff's assassins, that unfolds throughout the later degrees, reflects our own efforts to overcome those negative forces within us and in the world around us.
So it's about fighting against ignorance, striving for knowledge,
Yes.
and ultimately building a more perfect temple.
Within ourselves and in society.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly separate elements, the degrees, the symbols, the stories, all tie together.
Right.
to create this cohesive, powerful system of moral and spiritual instruction. It's like they're all pieces of the same puzzle.
And that's what makes these rituals so fascinating.
Yeah.
They aren't just a bunch of arcane practices.
Yeah.
It's a carefully constructed system meant to guide the initiate towards a higher understanding of themselves and the world.
So it's not just about joining a secret society.
No.
It's about embarking on a transformative journey.
Yes.
One that challenges you to confront your limitations and strive for a better, more virtuous, more enlightened way of being.
Exactly. And that journey, as we'll see, has both challenges and rewards.
Okay.
And it offers some really profound insights into what it means to be human, and the ultimate meaning of existence.
All right, well, let's keep going then.
Sounds good. What's cool is how the document doesn't just lay out this big story.
Right.
It uses all these smaller stories within each degree
Uh-huh.
to really drive those themes home.
So like a bunch of mini lessons,
Yeah.
all part of that bigger Masonic journey.
Exactly. Like take the 6th degree, for example.
Okay.
We meet Joabert, the intimate secretary.
Okay.
He gets accused of eavesdropping,
Ooh.
causing all this tension between King Solomon and the King of Tyre.
Sounds a bit traumatic.
Yeah.
So it's not all symbols and abstract ideas then.
Well, the symbolism's always there.
Right.
But these stories, they ground the teachings in things we can relate to. Human experience,
Yeah.
like in Joabert's case, it's a reminder that even people in charge, they mess up too. But the important thing is he redeems himself in the end.
Okay.
Through loyalty, through competence.
So it's about owning up to our mistakes,
Yes.
but then trying to do better
Yeah.
through good actions.
Absolutely. It fits right in with that self-improvement theme we've been talking about.
Totally. Now, this idea of redemption through service, that pops up in other degrees too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like the 7th degree, there's the provost and judge.
Okay.
Their job is to settle disputes, keep things running smoothly at the temple.
Sounds like a mini lesson in leadership.
Right. And conflict resolution.
Are those skills meant for just inside the Masonic community or out in the wider world too?
Both, actually. The rituals, they give you this framework for ethical behavior, for making decisions that Masons are supposed to take with them everywhere.
I see.
It's about building understanding, settling arguments, and being fair.
So it's not just personal growth then, it's about helping build a bigger society.
Exactly. Which leads us to another interesting thing that comes up a lot in the degrees. Trials and judgments.
Oh, yeah. Like that whole trial of Count Reinfrid in the 21st degree.
Yeah, that one's a good one.
He's accused of forging documents, trying to steal an inheritance.
Right.
And they have these crazy tests with fire and incense and water to figure out if he's guilty or not.
These trials, they're like moral plays.
Okay.
Exploring themes of justice, truth, accountability.
I see.
They're not just courtroom stuff. They're symbolic. They represent that inner battle between good and bad.
It's like a morality play.
Yeah.
Where the elements themselves are judging you.
It's pretty theatrical, isn't it?
It is. It makes you think how these rituals work on so many levels at once.
Oh, yeah.
The literal, the symbolic, the morals, it's layered. It's no wonder people have found meaning in them for so long.
That's true.
Now, speaking of finding meaning, you mentioned earlier noticing some political stuff in these teachings.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like in the 20th degree, there's that scene where George Washington is dealing with this petition from free men of color wanting to join the Patriot Army.
Right. That's a good example.
It really highlights that tension between ideals and reality, even in groups dedicated to these noble principles.
Definitely.
What I found interesting was how they show Washington's hesitation at first.
Oh, yeah.
He's worried about disrupting the social order, and one of his advisors even mentions how the Lodge of St. Andrews wouldn't admit men of color.
Right.
It's a reminder that even in groups with these high ideals, there can still be prejudice and discrimination.
That's very true, unfortunately.
But ultimately, Washington makes the decision to let them enlist.
He does.
He chooses the ideals of liberty and equality over the prejudices of the time.
Powerful stuff.
It's presented as this moment of moral growth, right? Showing that struggle for a more just and inclusive society.
Exactly. It suggests that these Masonic teachings are meant for the real world, not just inside the lodge.
Yeah.
Challenging us to fight injustice and work for positive change.
Now, shifting gears a bit, the document also has these accounts of symbolic deaths and rebirths.
Oh, yeah, those are interesting.
What's that all about?
It emphasizes how transformative the Masonic journey is.
Okay.
It's about shedding old ways of thinking, facing your limitations, and coming out stronger, like a better version of yourself.
Like in the 23rd degree, the candidate is asked, What now dost thou desire? And the answer is light.
Yes. That's a powerful metaphor, isn't it?
It is.
It represents that search for knowledge and spiritual understanding.
And this transformation, as we've seen, doesn't happen overnight.
No, it's a process.
Full of trials and tests, symbolic deaths even,
Right.
that challenge you to face your weaknesses
Yeah.
and embrace a life of service.
You're hitting on a key point there. It's about continual refinement,
Hmm.
a lifelong pursuit of becoming better.
And it's not just about reaching some final destination.
No, it's about the journey.
It's a journey itself.
Exactly. And that journey, it's not all about looking inward either.
Right.
There's a big emphasis on community,
Okay.
on brotherhood, on supporting each other.
The rituals seem to constantly reinforce that.
They do. Masons are supposed to look after one another, help those in need, work together to improve society.
It's interesting how this brotherhood seems to go beyond religion and culture.
Yeah.
Like in the 29th degree, you see the Grand Master, Hugh of Tiberias,
Right.
interacting respectfully with Sultan Saladin, a Muslim ruler.
It shows how Masons value diversity
Yeah.
and how they try to find common ground even when people have different beliefs.
So it's about recognizing that everyone has worth,
Yes.
no matter their background or beliefs.
Exactly. It's about building understanding, working together to make the world a more harmonious place.
Now, with all this talk of journeys and transformations, I'm really curious about that final degree, the culmination of the Masonic path, the 30th degree, Night Kadosh.
The Night Kadosh. That's considered the peak of the journey,
Okay.
where everything you've learned comes together
Mm.
in this profound commitment to justice, truth, and creating a more enlightened world.
The document describes the initiation as a journey through a series of chambers, each one with its own symbolic meaning. It's like a physical representation of that spiritual climb we've been discussing.
Exactly. The candidate has to face the darkness within themselves
Okay.
and within society.
Yeah.
And they emerge as this warrior for truth and justice, someone who defends the weak and the oppressed.
They mention a mysterious ladder with 7 steps,
Yes.
each representing a different stage of the journey.
Very symbolic.
Can you just explain that a bit?
Ladders, they're a common symbol in spirituality.
Right.
They usually represent the soul's climb towards enlightenment.
Oh.
Here, it represents how Masonic teachings work.
Mm.
Each stage builds on the one before,
Right.
leading you to a deeper understanding of yourself and the universe.
And each chamber along the way
Yeah.
represents a different part of that understanding.
Exactly. Like Judge's Hall, that emphasizes justice, making righteous judgments.
Makes sense.
And the Chamber of Reflection.
Yeah.
That's a space for introspection, for looking inward.
So it's like a guided meditation through all these different aspects of moral and spiritual development.
And this inner journey is mirrored by a symbolic journey to the Holy Land,
Oh, wow.
echoing the trials the Crusaders faced.
So it's not just about understanding with your head.
No.
It's about living it,
Yes.
facing challenges, striving for a higher purpose.
Exactly. Being a Knight Kadosh, it's not just a title.
Right.
It's a way of life, a commitment to living by those ideals of truth, justice, compassion.
Now, as this ceremony goes on, they describe all these symbolic actions,
Yeah.
dialogues.
What's that all about? Those are meant to really make those teachings sink in,
Okay.
both in your head and your heart. Like, for example, they have to salute the Holy Volume 3 times. It's a sign of reverence and respect for the sacred texts,
Okay.
the texts that guide the Masonic tradition.
So it's about living those teachings,
Yes.
not just understanding them intellectually.
Right, but emotionally and spiritually, too.
Yeah.
And that's reinforced as they climb that mysterious ladder, stopping at each step to take an oath.
The oaths. At each step, they promise to uphold a different part of knighthood.
Right.
Justice, righteousness, honesty, integrity, courage, discretion, tolerance.
It's quite a list, isn't it?
It is. It's like a whole code of conduct.
It's a blueprint for how to live a life that aligns with the highest morals and virtues.
And this commitment to living a good life, it's not just for yourself, right?
No.
The Knights Kadosh are supposed to work together to make the world better, too.
Absolutely. The rituals emphasize how important collective effort is. Working together to fight injustice, promote knowledge, create a more harmonious world.
So it's not just about your own enlightenment.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about using that enlightenment to make a real difference.
Exactly. The Knight Kadosh is more than just a fighter for what's right.
Okay.
They're a symbol of hope, They represent what humans can achieve when we act on our highest ideals.
This one document, the 494-10425 AASR 1946 Ritual Book.pdf. It's amazing how it's like a guide to personal growth and a call to action, all wrapped up in these rituals and symbols.
And it doesn't sugarcoat things either.
Right.
It constantly reminds you that what you do matters. You have to own your choices, moral responsibility and all that.
Yeah, like in Washington's Dilemma.
Exactly.
It'd be easier to just go with the flow.
Easier.
But these rituals, they push you to face those injustices head on.
Even when it's tough.
Yeah, even when it's uncomfortable.
It's not about blindly following orders.
Right.
It's about using your conscience, your own judgment to make things better, to get closer to those ideals of liberty and equality.
And it's not just about those big heroic acts either.
No, not at all.
The rituals talk about humility, charity, helping others. All those everyday good deeds are just as important.
Yeah, because they build the kind of world where maybe you don't need those big dramatic interventions as much, It's about creating a foundation for a just and peaceful society.
It's that balance that I find so interesting. On the one hand, you've got this quest for knowledge, like a spiritual treasure hunt.
Oh, yeah, totally. The ineffable name, the journeys through the chambers.
Yeah.
It's about discovering those hidden truths.
Expanding your awareness.
Yeah, and connecting with something bigger than yourself.
But it's not just about having those mystical experiences.
Right.
It's about what you do with what you've learned.
Yeah.
How it changes you, how it impacts others.
Exactly. The trials, the tests, the symbolic deaths. They're not just there for show.
Right.
They're about showing you're ready to actually live these principles, not just think about them.
It's like that question from the 23rd degree. What now dost thou desire?
Light.
Yeah. And that answer, it's not just about you being enlightened.
No.
It's about you becoming a source of light for everyone else.
That's a great way to put it.
And that brings us back to the legacy of Freemasonry. It's not just rituals.
Right.
It's a guide to living a life that matters, a life with purpose,
Dedicated to building a better world.
both inside yourself and in the world around you.
That's it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the 494-10425 AASR 1946 ritualbook.pdf,
Yeah.
what really stood out to you?
It's that constant back and forth between transforming yourself and transforming the world around you.
Yeah.
You can't really have one without the other.
Right.
Growing as a person helps you make the world better. And trying to make the world better pushes you to become a better person. It's like a cycle.
I like that. And I think that's the challenge this document gives us.
What do you mean?
It's not about becoming a Mason or anything.
Okay.
It's about asking ourselves, what are we building in our own lives?
Yeah.
What are we trying to understand? What do we want to leave behind?
Those are big questions.
They are, but they're worth thinking about.
Absolutely.
Whether we ever join a lodge or not, those questions are at the heart of living a meaningful life.
Well said.
So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
Absolutely.
Until next time, may your journeys be full of light, and may the wisdom you find along the way guide you as you build your own, I guess you could say, temples of truth and virtue.
I like that.
Farewell.
Farewell, everyone.